Hey, I'm Jennifer Hurvitz, best-selling author of the books One Happy Divorce and Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda. I'm a relationship coach, a public speaker, and I'm the mom of two of the most kick-ass teenage boys around. Raw, authentic, and insightful, this podcast is a no-bullshit slice of reality for anyone curious about what it looks like to get divorced. On Doing Divorce Right, we'll give you the tools you'll need to navigate your relationships, whether you're contemplating divorce or have already signed the papers. We'll figure it out together without taking ourselves too seriously here on Doing Divorce Right podcast. Hey, good morning. Good morning. This is Doing Divorce Right or Avoiding It Altogether. And I'm Jennifer Hurvitz. I'm your host every single Tuesday. Oh my gosh, you guys. I love when I have guys on my show. I just love it. It's always women. We're always talking about things like, relationships. And we're talking about girl stuff and all this girl, stuff going on. Today I have a guy. I'm so happy, a man in the house, and we're going to talk about stuff that men don't always talk about. And I don't know. I just am so happy to have Ellie here. It's Ellie Weinstein is here today. And this is just so exciting for me, Ellie. I can't wait. So he's a therapist. He's a speaker, and he's got some really great stuff going on. I'm thrilled. He's into the whole mental health awareness thing, which is a really big deal for me. He's going to teach us some cool stuff. He also has a secret because he's a big shot. I found him. I was kind of stalking you a little bit, Ellie, on Instagram, and I found out that you were on the Kelly Clarkson show, and I got a little jealous about that. So we're going to talk about that too. Ellie, how are you?
Hey, what's going on?
What's happening?
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I'm so happy you're here. So you have all this really cool stuff, and you have a website that you call Elevation, which is kind of like a little play on your name.
Yep.
Kind of cool. So I don't even know where to begin, but I saw you did this morning. I saw Facebook Live or Instagram kind of thing you did. And it kind of sparked my interest because I think you were a little bit nervous about doing it. And then when I saw it, I was like, that's rockin' awesome. You kind of said something interesting to me that when you were going through your stuff, there weren't a lot of things out there for guys about mental health and body image and right?
Yep.
So tell us your story. How did this all start for you?
So Elevation started, it's always been something that I've always wanted to do regarding inspiring and motivating people. It's why I became a therapist. It's why I just love helping people. You might think it's a sickness. You might think it's a problem, but I love it. I love just dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. And when I noticed that there wasn't a lot of men on Instagram, on social media, just helping people, helping other guys who are struggling and supporting anyone and everything, it really bugged me because we need it just as much. And I know when I became a new dad and a husband, and I was going through anxiety and I've been struggling with body image issues all my life, I kind of felt alone in the fact that there was so much more for women on those fronts and mental health than there was for men, when we're all humans and we're all struggling just as much about these things.
Right. Totally. I totally agree with you. We have all this stuff out there for women, no offense, girls. And then I think to myself, guys are new dads too. Like there's all this new mom stuff and postpartum depression and which is, I think that guys go through a lot of the same struggles. Like you get hit with this baby, the baby comes out and you hand it, oh my gosh, you guys go through the same stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not the same, but different. But I know when my wife and I, when we were going through similar things, I know my wife and I had to go through IVF and a very struggling process.
Yeah.
And she found so much comfort in support groups that were there for women going through IVF and support groups for being a new mom, for breastfeeding, for sleep training, all these things for new moms, which is super important. And no offense out there to all the moms and all the women who need that support because it's so beautiful you have it. But I felt like alone, that I was like, what about me? Like, I'm also struggling with the IVF struggles. I'm also struggling with being a new dad. I'm also struggling with being a human. And there wasn't a lot of things for guys. And it really bothered me.
Oh my gosh. It's really funny until I saw this is crazy to me, but until I saw your Instagram thing to this morning, I never even thought about that. Is that awful? Because this space for me is so saturated, no offense with women and everything I do is about, I do touch about it in my book has some, of course men too, but I'm in the divorce space. So I never really thought to myself, and maybe that's why I'm divorced, but I never really, I never really did think about like, wow, maybe my husband needed a little extra help when I was going through all that stuff, breastfeeding. And I just he sat on the floor next to me when I was nursing and I kind of just handed him the kid afterwards. Right. But I was the one who always was struggling. Maybe he was too. That's a really Wow. It's like majorly eye-opening to me. So what do you suggest? What do you think we should do about this? Like,
Well, I think the hardest thing is that, and I talked about this today, was that it's this kind of weird paradox because guys naturally are not as open, and they might be in touch with their emotions, but don't like sharing their emotions. They don't like to show weakness or be vulnerable. The classic guy doesn't want to put themselves out there in that way. But every time that I've put myself out there in that way and shared my feelings and my struggles, I get messages from guys saying, oh my goodness, I'm going through the same thing. Wow, I didn't know that someone else did this. Oh my gosh, I felt alone. Why didn't someone else talk about this? So it's funny because guys don't want to talk about it, but when someone does talk about it, they notice they have the same problem, but then still don't want to talk about it.
Right.
It's a vicious cycle of we don't want to have this because it looks bad, but when someone does show it, we go, oh, cool. Like Justin Baldoni, who's a famous actor, is really trying to push this idea of men and vulnerability, and is getting huge, support because, one, he's famous, so he has the platform, but it shows that there's another side to being a man than just being the muscular, strong guy.
I love that. Okay, so I just have a TED Talk for you. I just decided it. This is what you should be talking about for your TED Talk.
Hey,
I think this would be,
if you're listening,
TED Talk, TED people, I think this would be an amazing, no one take this idea because it's on here right now. I'm putting it out there. This, Ellie, this is your TED Talk. This is fantastic. I love it. I think that this is like such a huge void in like men and vulnerability, because you're right. It is it's like uncharted waters, don't you think?
And the funny thing is that men go through it and they're all dealing with it and they're just afraid to go out there and put it out there. But if you're right, the social media world is saturated with female oriented things. And I think it is so empowering and so beautiful.
Yeah.
I think people assume that men can just do it on their own and women can't, which I don't think is true. I think some women can do it on their own and some women can't. And I think some men can do it on their own and some men can't.
Right.
I don't think there's a gender specific thing that impacts that.
Okay, now I have another project for you. I think you should write a book. Do you have a book yet?
I am. You are feeding. I'm telling you, if my wife was sitting next to me, you are feeding into all my dreams and hopes. I am working.
I'm your muse.
It is a work in progress.
Okay.
I have an idea for a few books.
Excellent. Get right on that.
I'm working on it little by little. I am a terrible writer. My wife is my editor for most of my posts.
Oh, that's awesome. She's sitting right next to you? She should
No, she's not. She's at work.
Oh, she's at work. Okay.
She's killing it. But awesome. So I once I have my LCSW, it's going to be I'm going to start working on those things as well.
Okay. I think I'm telling you, you don't even need to just get going, because I feel the same way. There's not a lot of male literature. Like when you go to your Barnes and Noble and you're surfing, you're on Amazon. It's like, yeah, the self-help, it's all women. No offense, girls. I love you. I mean, I wrote 2 books. I'm here I am. But like, I just feel like, guys read my book, they read it and they call me and they're like, thank you for writing this, Jen. My wife read it too. And we read it together, but there's really like, where's the stuff for the guys to just sit down and be like, thank you. I've got this. Right.
And the funny thing was I was reading like dad books. I'm not trying to bash dad books out there. I don't even remember half the ones I read, but I skimmed through them and read them. And it was all very, it didn't speak to me because it was more about make sure you're there for the child.
Yes.
To me, that was so obvious. And that's just how I grew up. Right. That's my culture. As a Jewish male, my father has been in my life. His father was in his life. It's just something that we're very family oriented culture.
Right.
But it was speaking to the general public where sometimes the father figure is not always there.
I got you.
For me, being the father figure who is going to be there, what about the other things? It was more like, okay, be there, play with your child, how to change a diaper, like all the simple things. And I was like, okay, this is pretty simple. I need something deeper, something stronger, something more mental health, more supportive in other aspects than just here's how to put on your child's clothes.
Right. Like more about you specifically, personally to your person, your what's going on in your psyche during this and how things are going to change mentally with you and your wife and like that kind of thing. Right. Yeah. Oh, this is good stuff. This is why I had you. I knew it. I said to myself, this Ellie, he's going to be good. Okay. So now your website is specific. Now you also we can flip here, but you also are really good with children.
I hope so.
Okay, so let's get into this. I have a question for you, and I don't know if I'm like off base or whatever, but I have teenage boys, and I think that oftentimes they're overlooked a little bit in the mental health space. And I know that this is kind of your thing and your jam, and we're talking about all this good stuff. But, I have my boys are 16 and 17, almost 18, and they emote. They're pretty emotive. And I feel like maybe that's because I am. I don't know. My ex husband is. But do you think that sometimes they're overlooked? How do you feel about that?
That's a great question. In the clinic that I work at, I happen to see a lot of teenage kids, which is like my favorite uh, age to work with,
Oh,
because I feel it's a great point in someone's life to get a little extra love, care, being heard and seen for who they are, and a kind of impactful moment that can really be a good trajectory for their future. So I love teenagers and young adults. It's like my favorite species of humans. Um, but with that being said, the boys that come to me usually are being forced by their parents.
yeah. That's what I hear.
Girls
My
that
friend,
come to me want to come to therapy.
is that
Um,
funny? That's so
yeah,
funny. Yeah,
and the girls, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in the world of teenage boys. A lot of self harm, depression, self esteem issues, and anxiety. And with boys, it's all anxiety and self esteem, but it manifests differently.
right.
I just recently spoke at a weekend retreat for teenagers. I've 40 teenagers, and I spoke about mental health and being genuine and TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of
Oh
stuff.
my gosh.
And afterwards, the people who came over to talk to me were the girls.
Isn't that
Girls
funny?
came over. The boys were like, "Good job, great, thanks so much,
Right.
go you," and like high five. We didn't high five because of coronavirus. We elbowed. And then the girls came over and were asking a lot of questions of when do you think someone should go to mental health treatment.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
I have a friend who's struggling with this, a friend who's struggling with that, and really they're talking about themselves. But girls are coming to me more than the guys are, and I think it's something I'm trying to work on, whether it's through social media, through the people I talk to, about the concept of the classic guy and emotions and feelings and vulnerability versus girls run more emotional,
Right.
um, and are more accepted to be emotional and vulnerable and are okay with being that.
Right.
So they are always searching for growth and self-help versus guys who are not. They're more
Right.
afraid of that.
Do you think that comes from their upbringing? Does it come from how their parents are? Because I know that, like, just going to put it that, just be honest here, vulnerable for myself. Both of my boys, actually not both. My older one is way more, I think, in touch, in tune with his own emotions, and he's very, he'll come right to me and say, "Mom, I need to talk to someone," or "Let's go find someone that I can talk to that's not you," or someone that can give me. And he's flat out like, "Mom, I think I need some help with my anxiety." He's really super, and I'm really proud of him for that. I feel like,
Beautiful.
if he comes to me and he wants to go talk to someone, I'm on the phone immediately. Like, I
Of
just,
course.
and then I also have, he comes to me sometimes and he says, "Mom, I really feel bad for my friend so and so. She wants to talk to her mom, and she went to talk to her mom, and her mom said that she didn't need any help."
Mm-hmm.
And that really hurt. That really bothered me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I feel like, as a parent, if my kid's coming to me and says, "I want to talk to someone," that's a big step, right? Don't you think?
It's a huge step, unfortunately, and I hate saying this,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a beautiful step from the teenage perspective, or anyone, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a parent going to a child saying, "I'm struggling with my health or
Mm-hmm.
my mental health. Can you help me find someone?"
Mm-hmm.
I see this a lot with teenagers. It's really, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit to hear that a person would do that to their child.
Yeah, right.
But that's one of the biggest issues with why some people go down dark roads, because the parents are like, no, it could be cultural of no, deal with it, suck it up. Don't talk to someone else, keep it in the family.
Right.
Those cultural pressures and society pressures that we have. And back to your other question of, is it someone who's raised, is it how they're raised or their environment?
Mm-hmm.
I was the same way. When I saw someone who was blind or deaf, or someone who was mentally disabled or physically disabled, or anyone who was going through issues, or even myself, it would break my heart as a kid. Still
Yeah.
does. But
Yeah.
I was very emotionally in touch. I'm very self-aware. Have a great emotional intelligence. But not everyone is like that. So I don't think it has to do, I think it's a mixture, but I think it has to first start with where the kid is at. So some
Okay.
kids have that beautiful power and are very in tune with their emotions, and some kids aren't. And it crosses all different genders. It crosses all different backgrounds. It doesn't matter culture or that. The person, it's how they're born. It's
Sure.
the eyes they see through. But at the same time, how your culture and how your parenting styles are could then impact that child's then steps they take with those emotions.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Do you have any tips or anything that we can do as a parent? Like, any steps we can take or any signs? These are a lot of questions for you. I'm kind of blown, but anything.
I love questions.
Anything
Signs
we
for
can
what?
do, right? Like signs that we can notice that if our kid, like, let's say our kid doesn't come to us. Like, let's say not everybody has a Jonah. That's my son. You don't have a son or a daughter that comes to you, but are there signs that our child needs help or that? I know some, but maybe for our listeners who don't or who need some help, what are the signs that our child actually probably does need a little help but they're not coming to you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there are a lot of general rules because each child is different. And the only person that knows the child is the parent.
Yeah.
Well enough because you know your child's baseline. For example, my daughter who's almost 9 months old. She's adorable, yummy, and cute. She's happy, go lucky. She claps, she smiles. She doesn't cuddle. She doesn't like cuddling.
Okay.
She likes to be her own woman. She likes to be independent. She'll push away. She likes to stand up on her own, on her own 2 feet, even though she can't stand yet. But when she was recently, she was sick. She had the flu like a month ago. She cuddled. Yeah. And I looked at my wife and said, something's wrong. And not the cuddling's wrong. Trust me, I loved every moment of the cuddles because it was so yummy and delicious. But at the same time, it wasn't my child's baseline.
Right. I gotcha. Yep.
And another parent wouldn't know that because, oh, so cute. Your baby's cuddling with you. That's so adorable. Yes, it is, but that's not her norm.
Yes.
So the same thing for when it comes to teenagers and adults. When it comes to anyone that you know the baseline.
Yep.
There's all these rules of body language and, if someone crosses their arm or opens their arms, I cross my arms all the time. I'm a very warm, loving person. It's just my comfort. That's where I'm at. That's my baseline. It doesn't mean that I hate you. It just means that
Sure.
I'm 6'2", I got big arms. I feel awkward with my arms. I don't know what to do with them, so I hold them. The same thing with children. If you see them, like the classic things are isolation, if they're hiding, if their mood is changing, but that can change whether it's a girl or a boy, if it's their time of the month, all those kind of things, you have to be aware of that. It doesn't mean that just because your girl's mood changes that they're suicidal or depressed or anxious. It could just be that they're going through their cycle.
Sure.
Even with guys with testosterone and puberty, it's
crazy. Gosh, yeah. Oh God, I can't. Yeah,
you have to be aware, right? Teenagers suck and they're amazing at the same time.
Oh my God, right?
I love them, but everyone, when I tell people I want to work with teenagers, like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. I might have an issue. But
I love them too. I don't mind it. It's funny. I say the same thing. The teenagers don't bother me. They only bother me sometimes, a little bit. It's like, I don't mind.
Those are the things: mood swings, isolation, their emotional swings. So all of a sudden they're just crying all day, every day. Mm-hmm. That's not. I hate this word normal. I don't think anyone's normal, but that's not a baseline for your child.
Right.
But if that is the baseline, different story. So you just need to be aware. It means putting your phone down. It means looking away from your screens. It means actually focusing on your child. It doesn't mean that you have to hover and, be on top of them and in their business every second. It just means at the dinner table or make time to talk to them or look at them and say, how was your day? And then when you look at them and talk to them, notice. Just pay attention, be aware, and try to pick up on that stuff and bring it up to them. Or if you notice something, talk to a friend of theirs or a teacher. Hey, how's their mood been in school? Yep. Just make sure you're being on top of your children. Other than that, it's all about paying attention to what they usually are and what they're not.
I agree. Natalie, I have a question for you. Do you have a specific time? And this is just I know it's your opinion and you're knowledgeable in all of this stuff. Do you have a certain time that you think is appropriate for a kid to start social media, or how do you feel? And this is a whole other, you could come on, we could do the podcast all day about social media, but is there a time and a place for social media that you really find is a good time? Is there ever a good time?
That's a hard question because times are changing so much. I didn't get my first phone until I was in 9th grade, and my grandmother bought it for me because I used to take public transportation to school, so it was for safety. And it was like a Motorola Razor.
Yeah, me too. I didn't get one until I think high school or college even.
Which is fine.
I didn't know. Yeah.
I didn't need it, and social media wasn't around when I was growing up. But now that it is, like my niece and nephew knew how to swipe on my phone when they were 3. They could find the apps without me telling them.
Crazy to me.
So in tune.
Yeah.
It was just part of their lifestyle.
Right.
So like my nephew is 9 years old. He plays Fortnite with my brother sometimes. It's like they're bonding. It's very cute. And now the Facebook just came out with a new messaging system for children to be approved by parents.
Yes.
So my niece and nephew now Facebook message me all the time, and it's wonderful. I love it because I could talk to them when they're being silly and ridiculous, and they're about to go to sleep, and they're hiding the phone and the iPad, and they're talking to their uncle and aunt, and I think it's really adorable. At the same time, I do think that it's very scary, the world we live in, and the access that people have to social media and what can go on and how much we can download and how much we can see. And,
it's scary. Yeah.
Is just, if someone has a cell phone and it has access to the internet, they can create an Instagram account or a Snapchat or a Facebook account, a TikTok, whatever thing the new thing is.
Oh, TikTok. Yeah. I can't
see funny things, cute things, and adorable things, be in touch with people, but at the same time, like I don't know if you heard about this concept. I just found about this about a few months ago, and I spoke about this on this past weekend when I was talking to teenagers. The idea of Finsta.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We know. Yeah. Let me tell you something. I've seen some Finsta that you wouldn't even. The Finsta. We've known about it.
That alone is so sad that someone has they have to create a fake account.
Yes.
To post what they want their world to be.
Right.
And then the real world is what they show their closest friends.
Right.
That idea it's called a disconnect of reality. You don't want to be genuine with who you are because you're afraid of who you are or not happy with that. So that stuff, I think social media really impacts self-esteem. I think when you look and compare your life to other people's lives and you are literally just looking at someone on vacation, in a bikini, working out, doing this, doing that, and looking amazing and wearing the coolest, hottest new clothes and doing this, and you look at yourself and you're like, what the hell? Like, that's frustrating.
It's exhausting for me. I mean, this is, for you.
Imagine a teenager who doesn't even know themselves yet.
Right. I mean, I'm 47 and sometimes I'm like, I have to shut this off. I cannot. I'm exhausted. Yep. It's exhausting, the posting and and I try to be as real as I possibly can and be as vulnerable. And for me, it's exhausting. I don't know how these kids do it. I just don't know, I feel like, and sometimes I look at my boy, Jonah, my older one, he'll go off all social media while he's in like prep for SET or when he's studying for whatever. And I think that's really for a kid at 17 to be able to do that, to have that kind of self-control. I don't know how he does it. He just shuts off all his social media. I'm like, how does he do that? I could never. But good for him. I don't know, it's crazy to me, but I just can't. So anything else that you can think of that we haven't touched upon today that you think is something that my listeners can take home or take away, or I don't know.
I just think that in the end, I think it's really important to be genuine with who you are. Try your best to be best you can whenever you can. And if you need help, get help.
Agree.
And it's not a problem. This past weekend, a few kids came up to me and said, is something wrong with you if you go to therapy?
Oh, that breaks my heart.
It breaks my heart also as a therapist. And something that I tell people all the time, I've had colleagues of mine and friends of mine say, I need help. Can you suggest something? I'm afraid to do therapy. I'm afraid to take medication. All those real questions. And the real answer is, from the bottom of my heart, just because you're going to therapy means that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you need help from someone else who is trained, who is objective, who cares about you no matter what, and wants the best for you. And sometimes you don't have that in your life. And sometimes you just need extra help. When you're sick, let's say you're really sick and you have a chronic illness or a flu or a cold. Sometimes you need help, like from medication and doctors, because you can't give yourself surgery. You just can't do that.
Right.
Same thing with therapy. Sometimes you just can't do that, or you're so stuck in the stuff that you're dealing with that you need someone objective to connect the dots, to see it from far away, to kind of give perspective and themes of what's going on. Right. I'll tell you, secret of therapy, I don't do anything crazy. I'm not in your mind like a puppeteer, like moving things around. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing as a therapist is being there to listen and being there to notice things that you might not have noticed, whether it's words you use, how you talk about yourself, how you talk about others, body language, certain things that are going on in the office that you might not see because you're you. Right. So it's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you are crazy. It doesn't mean that you have, you're going to be in the hospital. It doesn't mean all that stuff. It could be.
People think that. I think that's funny that you say that. Sometimes people think, well, if I go to therapy, I'm going to get locked up. I actually have had people say that to me. Like, I don't want to get locked up. If someone thinks I'm crazy, I'm like, whoa, whoa. It's
a pretty big job. I used to work in a psych hospital.
Yeah.
And, it was an amazing experience. But the people who are in psych hospitals are really sick and really need it.
Right.
Like really. And and if you do need it and you are suicidal or you have extreme psychosis, it's not the end of the world, because the whole point is for you to get help if that's what you need. Just like you would stay in a physical hospital if you need to stay overnight or a couple of days because you're sick and need to be observed.
Right.
Same thing with psych hospital. And I do get the fact that it is scary.
Yeah.
It is a scary place, but it's not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's
No.
not like Shutter Island. It's not that kind of thing that is so old school that hasn't happened in many, many years, that kind of style of psych hospital.
And I'll tell you, it is very disconcerting, and it is hurtful when someone that you're dating or someone that you're with, even as an adult, doesn't, is not understanding of you taking medication. Very honestly, I take antidepressants, I take anxiety medication. And when I've told people that I've dated, I'm taking Wellbutrin, and they're like, oh, they'll say something like, oh, really? Or you're on Wellbutrin. What, it's very, it's like, really, it's very, to this day, like it is it's hurtful, like to think that someone would give you that kind of response for
very stigmatized
for taking care of yourself.
Well, like if you have a heart problem and you're taking cholesterol medication, everyone's like, oh, good for you. You're taking care of yourself.
Right.
Oh, you have diabetes. Oh, you're taking insulin.
Right. Like I get migraines, right? So I take medication for my migraines. They don't have a problem.
How dare you?
Right. I can't believe you take migraine medicine.
I can't be with you. I'm sorry.
Right. I don't hear that. But then, someone will say, I remember I was in a date once and a guy said to me, well, you take, wow, what's wrong with you? And I was like, okay, we're done.
I don't blame you. Good for you. But I've seen people who have bipolar and schizophrenia. Those are the most extreme psychotic issues.
Yeah.
And they take medication and they're stable and they're doing great.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you don't take care of yourself, just like with your health, things happen.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I had a friend of mine who was dating someone for a long time, and she used to have an eating disorder and an anxiety issue currently.
Sure.
And the guy and the girl were dating and they were so close to getting married, and his parents kind of totally jumped ship and told him, like, you need to get out. You can't deal with that. And forced him to end the relationship.
Wow.
And it broke both of their hearts.
Yeah.
And this was a past issue from, let's say, 7 years ago, but who knows when it can creep up. Oh my goodness. I don't want my daughter-in-law and my grandchildren to have that issue. How could they?
Oh my.
So
really?
I think the biggest problem with mental health is the idea of stigma and the idea of myths and uneducation on topics.
Right.
That is what I'm trying to do with
good for you.
my being on podcasts and on Instagram, and just giving a bigger, more digestible, relatable connection to mental health, whether it's
that's great
parenting, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's men's issues, whether it's anything in between. It's really important for people to just be aware and know.
One of my favorites is when people say, well, it's fine that you take it, but I would never do that. I understand you taking it, but that's not for me. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for your support. But I think what you're doing is amazing. I think that you're doing fantastic things, which is why I'm so glad you were here today and sharing with my listeners. So Ellie, tell everybody where we can find you, and everything will be in the show notes so everybody can find you. Wait, did we talk about Kelly Clarkson? Did we talk? Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's amazing. You were on Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? I'm jealous.
I wish I can go back on. She's so sweet. She's really, really nice and wonderful. It was I would say about 8 months ago, almost a year ago. I liked a post of someone his name is Chronicles of a Daddy. He's one of the only supports that I've found helpful for fathers.
Okay, we have to change that.
Which is why I'm trying to change that and be more support on.
Yes.
And I just found out there's something called the Dad Summit, which I found out was like months ago, and I think that's the coolest thing.
Wait, it's it's the same as Mom to Mom. So Mom to Mom Summit and Dad Summit. They're brothers.
Dad Summit 2.0. It's really cool.
Yep.
The idea of new fatherhood and what it means to be a father. And I liked a post about his top 5 tips on how to help your wife with. And it was nothing. I honestly do those things anyways. My wife is an amazing warrior to continue to breastfeed till this day, and I help her when I can and do the things I can. Of course, I cannot breastfeed. If I could, I would, but I can't. And so I liked to post. And 2 months later, my social media, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my website, my phone blew up in a matter of an hour. From a producer on the Kelly Clarkson Show.
Very nice.
Saying, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm from the Kelly Clarkson Show. We'd love to have you on.
Oh,
and I said,
fabulous.
This is a joke. This is a joke.
That's what I feel. Right. You're
totally,
like amazing.
Totally pranked, totally punked. It's all not real. So I said, call now. So I called, and she was true. She was willing to send me her picture of her badge to show me that she really worked for Kelly, because she's all the time. Basically, they were featuring this guy, Chronicles of a Daddy. He's a great dude. And they wanted a therapist / father to be on the show. And
fantastic.
they literally, I said, oh, I'm going to be in LA in a couple of weeks. My in-laws live in LA for the holidays. I'm going to be there. No, we're doing it this
Oh, yeah.
We need you to fly out now.
When they want you. You got to get there, right?
I'm like, okay, I have clients. Let me make it work. Give me an hour. And I moved all my clients around. Once I said yes, within 2 hours, they had a flight booked. They got me an aisle seat. Thank God, I'm 6'2". I need my space.
Yep.
And they got me a hotel room and a car.
Oh, that's nice. Usually they don't do that.
It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. I mean, LA Live, they had me booked on the show. Whatever, I'm not going to say. They literally had me, I had to pay for my flight. I had to book the guests that I was bringing. I had to set up the whole day. Oh, it was awful. Then they canceled.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the whole thing. It was miserable. So you're lucky Kelly was good to you. Because
also these shows it just showed me how much money they have because literally I was on the show for 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I spent the whole day and they did all this stuff and it was a very cool experience. I was in the dressing room.
Yeah, the green room.
It was really fun. It was a great experience.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that because I've had the worst experiences. I'm glad that you had a good one because all of mine were canceled. I was standing there like, I was actually in the lobby of a show, not going to say, and they canceled that day. I was in the lobby. And
they even said to me, I was supposed to be like a main person on the show and then they moved things around and then they were supposed to use my social media, but never did. Because they said show business, things change.
Yes, they do. Well, that's what happened.
Things happen.
Yes, another guest was more important than me. I was a nobody, and this other guest was a somebody, and there was something that happened, and they're like, "We're really sorry, and we'll call you." And that I never heard back. That was it.
Yeah, and it was a very fun experience. It was really interesting. The cool part for me, other than being on the show and getting that exposure and having that experience, and hopefully many more experiences like that, was that. I have Crohn's. I have a chronic illness. I have Crohn's, and I struggle with anxiety.
Yeah, me too.
So you have Crohn's?
No, I have ankylosing spondylitis. So yeah. I just got diagnosed. Do you do infusions?
I do infusions once a month. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I do them every 6 weeks. We're buddies.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's it. We were meant to be.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like I feel like I just made it. Oh my God, it's awful. Yeah.
So it's a struggle. So that was a worry for me. Like the last minute changes, the flights, the this, the that, the rushing. What if I have to go to the bathroom? What if this happens on the show?
Oh yeah.
Literally, my anxiety and my chronic illness was in total check.
Oh.
That I can do this stuff without having to worry about it. It was more like a self-esteem booster that. I was so in my head about these last minute travels. I don't do things last minute. I take time to prepare. So I know where, who, what, when, and why.
Me too.
And it showed me that I could do it. And that was the biggest, that was for me personally. Sorry, Kelly Clarkson, if you're listening, I hope you are, because Jennifer has an awesome podcast, so you better be listening. But it showed me that I can do it, which is the bigger thing.
Yes, it is. It was a totally that's awesome that it was a twofold. It was like that you got this and that you could do it. It's so great, empowering, right? That you're like, I can overcome this and I can do it. And that's awesome. I'm so happy. This just makes me so happy. This is the best show. I'm so happy, Ellie, that you were here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just so glad you were here. I just love you. I think you're amazing. I will, everybody needs to just find you and you're just fantastic. Tell me the website and tell me where we can find you, everything.
Sure. So my website is elevation.org. That's my name.
How cool is that, elevation.org?
Yeah, I know. Thank you to my friend who thought of the idea, the name.
Yes.
And then my Instagram is elevation_LMSW. Hopefully soon to be LCSW when I have a private practice.
Okay.
And then you can find me on Facebook at Elevation and reach out to me whenever you need. If you want me to come speak in your next event, or you want me to come just talk on your podcast or be a guest on your show.
Yes, I think that's going to happen.
But anything you need, please reach out. If I can help you with anything you're doing with mental health, finding you resources, helping you get calm about the things that you're going through, I would love to do anything I can.
Well, you know what? We're going to put everything in the show notes. So listeners out there, if you are in need of anything mental health awareness-ish or just anything, this is your guy. I love you, Ellie. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody, you know where to find me. As usual, JenniferHurvitz.com or Jennifer Hurvitz Biz everywhere around the world. I don't know, wherever I am. And I love you guys. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Do something wonderful for yourself today. Go, I don't know, do a yoga class or some meditation or do something that helps your mental health. Self-love, you guys. Be good to yourself. And thank you, Ellie, for being here. I loved having you.
Thank you for having me.
Do your thing. Peace, love, and as always, truth. Thanks for listening to Doing Divorce Right. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe, recommend, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Want to keep the podcast going? Support us by going to www.jenniferhurvitz.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Peace, love, and truth.